Welcome to Back to Bush. I'm Gavin, and this is going to be the diesel heater build. This is a Chinese diesel heater that I got off Amazon. Shipped really quick, and it came in, and the quality is pretty outstanding. Enter stage left. There's Frenchie. That's Steve. He's checking out the hard case. Enter stage right is going to be Frankly. And then Miss Lily up top on the right-hand side. They're going to be supervising this build, I suppose. So this is it. This is the heater, and we're going to put this into a hard case. There's some videos online. Lots of people who have done it, but not too many that, in fact, none that I can find of how to do it. So this is the hard case, purchased from Princess Auto. It's probably the smallest, more compact one, which may be problematic down the road while I'm building this. However, I wanted something compact, and there's everything inside. Done. Guess that's the end of the video. Kidding. Anyway, so this is me just double checking that the pump and the heater themselves are going to fit inside without any interference problems. That's worst case scenario. That pump might be located in a different position, but I'm thinking about putting it directly on the back of the door. And so I just wanted to see if there was any interference issues. This is a 10-gallon tank that came with it. I'm sure that it's perfect for a transport truck or a marine application, but when it comes to portability, things a little bit oversized. And so I think I knew that ahead of time. So I ordered one half the size. And all of the vast majority of the stuff that I've purchased is purchased off of Amazon. And I did that specifically because I wanted to include links. It doesn't seem like the other previous videos or any other videos about building a diesel heater in a hard case or a steel box. Those things don't. Those videos don't have any of the links, and then on top of it too, there's no real build videos. So that's the reason why I decided to do this. Anyway, back to the video here. So what I'm doing here is I'm just checking out critical dimensions on the inside of this case. As I said, I ordered it online, and I wasn't 100% certain that everything was going to fit. Now, this bracket is just a standard 4x4 post bracket that I picked up at the hardware store. It's extremely light gauge. If I had to guess, I'd say it's probably only 2 millimeters, which is less than 1/8 of an inch. And it's galvanized, and it's not particularly rigid. And I sort of knew that going in, and I kind of figured that I was going to have to bulk things up and try to reinforce it. Not actually that bracket, but another bracket. I know that I'm going to have to do that, but anyway, I'm just doing this right now for essentially proof of concept, just to make sure that everything's going to fit in. You'll notice that where I'm cutting, it's not centered within that bracket, because if you check out the diesel heater plus the offset for the screw heads, they sort of have like a self-drilling screw that comes with the actual diesel kit for mounting, and it's about 3.5 to maybe 4 mil, a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch thick head. So you have to add a tolerance there for an offset. Anyway, so this is me just cleaning up some of the sharp metal. Even though it's just a proof of concept, right? You want to make sure that nothing gets snagged. There's nothing worse than getting a metal sliver. Wood slivers are bad enough, but metal ones really make me angry. So again, just cleaning some stuff up here. Nothing major. This is all sort of really, really simple. If you're doing this at home, if you have never done it before and stuff, you might want to use gloves. My glasses are polycarbonate, so I'm not terribly worried about that. But yeah, if you're using any tools, hand tools, or power tools, you want to definitely think about, safety. So this diesel heater is going to be used for a series of videos that I'm planning on shooting this winter. I haven't actually told too many people about this project, the Back to Bush project, and essentially this project and the diesel heater specifically is pretty important to it because it's going to be a series of a whole bunch of outdoor camping with some pretty awesome food. The first video is going to feature a tomahawk steak cooked over fire. Okay, back to the video here. So they send these two plates, and one plate is obviously a heat deflector plate, and the other plate is basically a clamping plate. So what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at whether or not I need this plate, even with the L bracket plate. And if I would have sort of looked ahead, I would have been able to actually use this plate as the template, because you'll notice that it's offset. So in the second video, I'm going to definitely use that metal plate to create the template to cut the supportive L bracket. So this is me looking in their instruction manual to basically see if there's an installation guide, and basically there's not. Other than sort of some of the build videos or installation videos online, there's not a heck of a lot that you can actually take from their instruction manual. It's very generic, and they sort of leave it up to you to figure it out. Anyway, this is where I figured out that I had everything mounted backwards, and I was sort of roughing it in upside down. So one of the big things that you need to sort of watch is enter the most difficult thing to find so far in this entire build package. So what this is an Aviation's coupler. It's a 7-pin. Pins only mean that you can run 7 separate circuits. And what you need this for is this is a waterproof Aviation's coupler and electronics coupler. And what you need this for is to get the electronics from the outside of the case to the inside of the case. Now, let me tell you, this was not an easy thing to find. And definitely will have a link to it. I didn't need 7 pins. I didn't need 7 individual ways to get either power or basically power in and out of this box. I only needed 5. However, I got 7 for a couple different reasons. I got 7. Oh, this is an interesting point right here. This is me getting a little bit ahead of myself here. I'll get back to that connector in a second. So this is me making the commitment. I jumped in. The one thing you'll notice is this hard case has a really thick wall thickness. I wasn't anticipating that. I was anticipating that it would be, maybe 3 mil at max. This thing worked out to be about 1/4 of an inch. So here we go. This is where some errors happen. Should have taken my time. Basically, hole saw, I did to the OD, not to the ID. And basically I sort of buggered this up a little tiny bit. The idea, see, it should have been 3/4. I used the 1 inch, and but that being said, it was sort of a unforeseen sort of error. I should have taken more time. This is me now going down a path that I spent way too much time on, and for the sake of your sanity and mine, I don't want to relive that. So long story short is I tried to make a washer for the back, and that would compensate because the front was still connecting. But it occurred to me that because of the wall thickness of the actual hard cases, that wasn't going to work. So I come up with a solution later on. Anyway, so I've got one side already wired up here. I did have filming of that. However, long story short is that it went pretty quick, pretty easy. And just because it was coming out of the box, you really couldn't get a good angle on camera. So I decided to show this side. Just a warning, this is the beginning to some calamity. Now this is a good place to point out too that you'll notice there's 7 pins on there. And the reason why I went with 7 pins is to be able to expand it, be able to add more things if I need to. But the other thing too is for spacing. I wanted some options. I wanted to be able to have enough spacing between me wiring that I wasn't right on top of myself, because these pins are very, very small. And speaking of which, these are the power, the black and red ones. These power ones are really heavy gauge, and in retrospect, and just a bit of advice, anybody doing this, knock those down in size. So solder something like a Cat 5 wire to that, and then use the Cat 5 wire to go to these pins. Don't do what I did, because I know the video doesn't show it, but this took a lot longer than it needed to be. This was exhausting at points. Something else to point out is that I'm using shrink wrap there. So this is a point where I realized that I've made another error, and or that's coming up. I still got to finish wiring all the small ones in there, and then I'll really be buggered. But you guys will see that. Notice part of the electronic coupler on the top left-hand side. Those 2 parts, they're going to come in and play a dramatic role here shortly. One to which I really do not want to relive. However, for the sake of a little tiny bit of humor, I thought I'd leave it in for you guys to see. So back to the 7-pin thing. Yeah, it's finding this specific coupler was extremely difficult. Note on the shrink wrap, by the way, is that I have 2 different size shrink wrap. I believe it's 4 mil, and I think it was 10 mil. 10 mil is the larger one, 4 mil is the smaller ones. And you can pretty much pick those up anywhere. You can find them on Amazon. I don't think I'm going to include a link for those. But they're just called shrink tubes. And for those who are uninitiated, you basically hold a lighter up to it, and they shrink around the wire and basically help to keep the weather out of it, and actually hold everything really nicely together. So yeah, just plugging away here. I gotta say, it's probably, when I was shooting this, it was around probably about 11:30 at night. I was pretty tired, wasn't really paying attention, and you'll see here in a couple minutes that that really came to bite me. Just an FYI, when you guys are pulling the sheathing off, it's got like sort of some goo or something in it, sort of some tar, and I don't know if it's tar, it's some sort of glue or adhesive, and it's a real pain in the butt, and that's why I ended up using the scissors. Later on, I actually ended up, I think, using the knife because the scissors wouldn't go through it. You know, for anybody out there that does soldering for a living, oh, this is where I realized something's wrong. So, remember I said that part of those couplers up on the top left? What I did was I soldered those together without threading the coupler on. So basically it made it impossible to slide that thing on. But hang in there, guys, it gets worse. The best part about this is that all along I was thinking to myself that that was going to be the easiest part, is remembering that certain things go certain places, so that when everything gets assembled and you close everything up, is that everything works out perfect. And like I said, it was really late at night. I wasn't really thinking. And long story short is I made this error. And then I struggled through here trying to get these wires soldered back together. I didn't leave myself enough lead to be able to wrap them around and get a good solder. One handy tip here is that notice that I have a cloth right there. The cloth is a dampened cloth, and what it's doing is it's helping dissipate the heat before it hits the shrink tube. Because I found out that if I solder it without cooling down the shrink tube, especially the larger wires, is that it transferred the heat down that wire significantly, and I ran into a couple of issues like that where I basically had to cut them off and put a new shrink tube down, because I think that's the issue right here too. Yeah, and so a wet cloth will help dissipate that heat so it doesn't travel down the wire. Anyway, anybody who's watching this that's done a lot of soldering knows that this is very much my grade 10 soldering, and my electronics teacher. This is my skill level from grade 10. Shout out Grip. Anybody who was in my grade 10 class will know what I'm talking about there. So right at this point, not off to a great start. I'm just looking forward to trying to get this thing done and move on to the next process. This goes a little tiny bit better here when I gave myself some proper leads. Anybody doing this, I would highly recommend you go and buy a brand new soldering iron, and buy the proper equipment. You can buy a whole setup where you can hold all the electronics all in place and then solder all your connection points together. And I highly recommend spending a little tiny bit of extra money to do that. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so it's a little bit difficult to sort of source out some of that stuff. And quite frankly, I didn't realize it would be this difficult. But in retrospect, anybody else doing it, just a word of advice, try and get as many proper tools as you can for doing this kind of thing, because it can be very frustrating, especially if you have the skill level of what I had, which was achievable, but extremely frustratingly achievable. So pretty much getting this all done up, and trying to get it back to the point of where I was before. There's nothing worse than, having to go 2 steps backwards. But as I foreshadowed there a couple minutes ago, it's going to get worse here before it gets better. So this is my first YouTube video, and learning a heck of a lot. I'm adding some music tracks into this video, more for myself, for when I'm watching it while I'm editing it as playback, because this is just watching this is just rehashing how much of a real chore this was to get done. But at the end, right, it's like you got to persevere through, and you're this deep into it, you might as well just get as deep as you can. One point here that I want to point out is the pins that are on this connector are sort of C-shaped. They're shaped like a cup, and then they come out to a small round. And so here's a point. Oh, right. that coupler was supposed to go on. Was supposed to go on before I put that together. So here we go into the deep end. Now I'm not gonna sit here and show you me resoldering those back together again. So it's my third error so far. The hole too large in the hard case, and then getting ahead of myself. Anyway, so this is where we're at. Ended up making a small plastic piece there. Put it on, coupled together. Screw it in. I did unscrew all of this and ended up using stainless steel screws instead of these self-tappers, and I silicone behind it. Thanks for watching Back to Bush Outdoors.